Guidance is internal. Ignition sequence starts. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. All engine running. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Permission to board. Permission to come aboard. Permission to board. Permission to bring me aboard. Permission to come aboard.
Welcome to the Permission Granted podcast. Here's D.A.
Welcome to the freshest edition of the Permission Granted podcast, everybody. Once again, a reminder, this is the show within the show. This is the behind the scenes of the show. This is bonus content of the show. Coming up, Erica Herskowitz is going to join us here on the show. Friend of mine here at CBS Sports Radio and WFAN in New York to talk about working around the holidays and the difference between the network and working on the fan. And then also, we've got Mraz a little bit later on in the show on the Permission Granted podcast side B. I'm not going to talk to Mraz today, though, because I'm back here in the studio and he's already off. This is a Tuesday, and Mraz is off the rest of the week. I'm still working today. He was off. I'm working tomorrow. He's off. And it's funny because life repeats itself. This time last year, I was the one editing together the Permission Granted podcast when we had Brooke Burke on, and I taped her on Christmas Eve, I think, or New Year's Eve at an airport. And the audio quality was so crummy that I could only get like 2.5 minutes out of it, and then we had to say goodbye. So this year will be way better, and I'm editing it together once again. So there. So no Mraz. We're going to get Herskowitz here on the show. Love it. Now, the next guest is hysterical. You've seen him in really, really funny movies. This guy, I just think, is absolutely hysterical. Comedian TJ Miller, who is going to be performing at the Atlanta Improv on December the 31st. I just love this guy. He played Stainer in She's Out of My League. He has been in a number of films like Cloverfield, as well as the TV show Silicon Valley. He's in the Transformers movie. And he's also going to be in Deadpool. He is so funny, and he just did a skit with Conan on the Conan show with characters that didn't make the cut for the new Star Wars, which I just thought was brilliant. TJ Miller joining us here on the Permission Granted podcast and eating a lot of celery at the airport. TJ, how are you, bud?
I mean, I'm great. I'm eating celery.
Well, then you couldn't be better, right?
Yeah. You know, I once tried to commit suicide in college because celery expends more calories than you get from eating it.
Uh-huh.
So technically, if you just eat celery nonstop, you'll eventually waste away.
Okay, so are you eating it just plain, or is there peanut butter or something on this?
It's a tuna fish situation, and I don't know how I got into it. Let me put it that
way. You just kind of stumbled upon tuna fish
it's a real
celery.
Problem.
Yeah,
I was in an airport. I was buying a People magazine. The next thing I know, I'm eating celery and tuna fish during a radio interview. It's ridiculous.
Can you trust celery from an airport?
Yes, but you cannot trust tuna salad. You can't.
So if you drop dead during the interview, we'll know why.
We'll know that it was the tuna and it was Delta Airlines. That's it.
That's the two-part problem there. So you just recently did such a funny sketch for the Conan O'Brien show when you played Jango Fett, and it was all of the Star Wars characters that did not make the new film. I just thought that was absolutely hysterical. How fun was that to film that with all those guys?
It was really fun. A little backstory that's funny. I worked for Disney because I did a film called Big Hero 6, which is fantastic. If you haven't seen it, please. You know, it's great. And so I know John Lasseter, who's sort of the figurehead of Disney, and his son and I were having beers the night before. And I said, you know, I'm doing this sketch tomorrow about Star Wars, and it's Jango Fett. And Bennett goes, okay. And I go, you know, I don't know. I guess that's his, like, brother-in-law or something like that, or an extended family member. And Bennett goes, no, that's his father. And in the fourth book of the third series, it was, and then he went off and on, and I realized, Disney owns Star Wars, so this is not the right place to sort of know about Jango Fett. Right. But that was great. And also, you know, Conan is so fun. I mean, he's been so supportive. I don't know if you've seen this, but it's worth Googling. TJ Miller eats 2 Italian beef sandwiches in less than a minute on Conan.
It's so great.
Yeah, it's really, really ridiculous. So that's good. Have you seen Star Wars or no? I haven't.
Yeah, I just saw the new film on Friday.
And what did you think? You're the first person I know that saw it.
You know, I'm an old school hardcore Star Wars fan, and I hated the prequels. I thought that every single one of them sucked.
Ugh, yeah,
Even the third one, people are like, no, that was pretty good. No, it sucked. And
no, it's terrible. It's only better than the first 2, right?
Exactly, yeah. So it was a little bit better than dog shit. So, and this new one was pretty awesome. It's not perfect, but
really?
it feels good. It feels like the old ones did.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because the second you said it's a little bit better than dog, I started to think of the different things that might be a little better than dog, which I guess would be like undercooked carrots, spending more than 8 days with your family, stuff like that. So I really love that you put that in that category. I'm going to have to start using that. But yeah, I mean, that's what people have been saying, is that it's sort of, it's a crowd pleaser, and it's an homage to the originals. And it's a good sort of kickstart for the next generation and it's more relevant than ever because we're actually going to Mars and all that stuff. But, we being Deadpool, went up against Star Wars at Comic-Con, and we had just about the same level of, not the same caliber, but the same level of audience approval, And so that's interesting, too. Star Wars is much more about how true can you be to the original. Deadpool is the first movie of this kind that's R-rated in the comic book genre, but again, how true is it to the original, to the comic book? And so that was an interesting thing. We've kind of not compared ourselves to Star Wars, but we've thought a little bit about, will we please audiences as much as they do, not just for the dollar value, but because we'd love for Deadpool fans and people in general to really get behind the movie.
Yeah. For those that don't know, you'll be right alongside Ryan Reynolds in the upcoming Deadpool, and I was a huge Deadpool fan back, like, I guess early '90s when the series first started, getting some steam back in comic book form. So I was really excited to see that they're making this, and I was really excited, as you said, that it was an R-rated film because I just think you couldn't do this and try to do it just like Spider-Man was or whatnot.
No, of course. And Deadpool is an R-rated comic book. And I love to hear that you're a fan because I wasn't. I didn't know about it until I got involved with the movie. But it sort of is what you would hope when you hear it has an R rating. Go, well, maybe they really will be sort of true to the source. And they are. And also Ryan Reynolds is this is like the role he's been waiting for. He's sort of built for this. He's not built to be Green Lantern or, nice, sort of funny, handsome guy in the TV show. He's built to sort of do this anti-comedy, weird, tangential, 1,000 asides for every actual statement. I think people are going to like it. I saw it, and audiences are loving it. So I'm excited for that. I mean, it's going to be different, and that alone in this, film landscape is exciting.
I had read that you had read all of Nietzsche's works by last year, and that's not exactly light reading. That's not light lifting. That's not something you could just read on the toilet. So, what convinced you or motivated you to try to get through all that dense work and try to do it at such an early age, really?
Yeah, I think I was misquoted. I read the cover of all of Nietzsche. I was at a bookstore. And I read every single cover, and after reading because I judge a book by its cover.
Sure.
After reading all the titles of his books, Human All Too Human, The Gay Science, he's got one called Ecce Homo or Ecce Homo. So I said, no thanks, no way. But I have read I spent, enough time in that book section of a Barnes & Noble to really get to know. Yeah, I read every single title.
Okay. Nice.
No, I mean, for me, I was dabbling in nihilism, and I've always been interested in philosophy, and then I just found him so funny. I read a little bit, and then I read a little more, and then I just thought he was funny. He's just lambasting this and that philosopher, and nobody understands anything. The hyperbole is kind of through the roof. He just exaggerates everything. So I really got kind of excited about that. And then as I read more and more, I said, well, this would be, 2 life achievements would be to read all of Nietzsche's works and then eat everything on the menu at Musso and Frank's in Hollywood. If I can do those two things, then my parents will really know that college was a waste of time for me. That's what I'm trying to prove to them.
Bucket list stuff right there.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Well, I saw on your Instagram that you took a picture of the sign of the Halloween Whopper, and I would have to imagine that kind of fits into that bucket list thing. I'm assuming you ate like 10 Halloween Whoppers, right?
I love that you saw that because I haven't been able to talk to anybody about it. What is going on? Are they using squid ink? Why is the bun is black? That's something. When have you ever wanted to eat something and thought, this might be better if it was black, if the color black?
Yeah.
I'm eating tuna fish right now. If the celery was black in honor of a holiday, I'm not sure I would eat it.
Yeah, have it. Oh, that sounds like really good. That sounds like really good celery right there.
Yeah, it has really been here for a couple of weeks.
So wait. So you're telling me that when you get a big, giant, juicy hamburger, you're like, oh, this looks so good. But I would be way more into it if it was black. If the bun
well, you know what it is. As far as buns go, once you go black, you never go back. And then that becomes a soundbite on the internet that my wife is like, why would you have said that?
So you're going to be
Kate's going to love this.
Yeah, Kate's going to love it. You're going to be performing over at the Atlanta Improv, and this is kind of a big deal because this could be maybe the final
closing show.
Yeah, the closing show. So do you have anything kind of unique planned, or what's your plan going into this?
Well, I had so much fun there, and we were so excited because that complex is so ridiculous. Remember, that's the nihilistic kind of viewpoint that I have. It's just so ridiculous there. It's so fun. Everything is so absurd. They've got an ice bar with a sushi restaurant and a speakeasy, and it's this kind of one-stop shop for every, I guess, idea or paradigm of fun. They put it all in this complex. The comedy club is one of those things, but to have them kind of be closing was such a bummer because the time that I did it, I thought, wow, I'll play this club for the rest of my life. The audience is so good. Everybody knows how to party. The staff is so chill. So it was a bummer, but when they told me, hey, we'd like you for New Year's, I said, yes, of course. And then they said, a little later, they said, well, it's the last, this is the last show. So then I asked to have the money in advance. And then, very sweetly, they kind of said, you were one of our favorite acts. And I said, well, that's weird because you should have just said you're our favorite act because now I'm thinking that you had a couple people that you asked before me. Right. And they said, not a couple. There were 5 to 10 people that couldn't make it. They just had better deals. And I said, you know what? At this point, I've been on the phone for so long, I'll take it. Right. And no. But truly, what I have planned is, similar to everything that I do on New Year's Eve, but, double that because it's also the closing night. And that is just to make it a show that feels so absolutely unique. That you didn't, a lot of people, they go, they do their act, and I'm thinking everyone in the audience paid a bunch of money to get champagne and a balloon drop, and I could have seen this on Netflix. But for me, no, it's going to involve people. I'm going to bring audience members on stage. We're doing a balloon drop, but it's singular. It's not plural.
Yeah,
so it's just
one
single balloon.
One balloon
that I'm going to throw into the air. Okay. Right. I mean, it may not even drop it. Maybe it's a balloon up in the air. So it's going to be it's sort of a left of center New Year's Eve. But I'm excited. The other thing that's great about Atlanta is they have the best of all of it. It's the South, it's Georgia, but it's Atlanta, so it's a big city. It's thriving. It's cultural. And I think it's a great place where I can go, like strangely Omaha, Nebraska, where I think, all right, well, let's hope that people like my act. And then when I do it, I realize, oh, yeah, these people are cooler than I am. I live in Hollywood with a bunch of douchebags. Right. And, these are people that are actually living in a city, working, having a great time. So that's what I'm hoping is that everybody that goes kind of feels like, wow, this show will never happen again, and it's never happened before, except last year in Atlanta. I did the Improv. I did.
So check that out. We're on 680 The Game in Atlanta. We've got a lot of great Atlanta listeners. You guys got to go check out TJ Miller. He's going to be performing on New Year's Eve at the Atlanta Improv. Watch him shut it down.
2 shows, yes.
Shut it down,
Tear
baby.
the place apart. I'm going to tear it apart. I bought a bunch of drums of gasoline, which I'm pretty sure I can get on the plane.
Sure.
And I'm bringing. We're going to burn the whole place down. And I want to say to your listeners and some of your viewers, because they're really looking at the station number or whatever while they're listening.
Right.
I want to say to your viewers and listeners that a lot of people may ask them, do you got game? Do you have game or what? And they do, because they're listening right now.
Right.
You've got game.
You've got game. That's right. That's exactly right.
And I've been planning that joke for, I'd say, 3 months, ever since I found out that it was possible that I was going to do the interview. And then once it was confirmed, I thought, okay, this is the way to kind of close it out. And now, as we've seen, that was a dismal failure, but not a representation of what you'll see at the Atlanta Improv on New Year's Eve. 2 shows. There's 2 shows, 7:30 and then 10:30, where I forget the times, but I do know I'm doing a secret show at 10 a.m.
Ooh.
And that will be in my hotel room if you can find it. And
Okay.
it's less of a show, and it's more just an awkward situation. So come on down for that as well.
TJ Miller will be performing at the Atlanta Improv, and we guarantee it's better than dog shit.
Mm-hmm. It's like airport celery. It's great. You can trust it. You can trust it's going to be a good time.
TJ, you know TJ Miller from Silicon Valley, the TV series, Cloverfield, the film. She's Out of My League, the upcoming Deadpool. TJ, congratulations on all the success, my man. And really, thanks so much for carving out time. I know it's a busy kind of time of year for you, so thank you.
No. And let's talk again next time you eat Triscuits the whole time.
Yeah,
we'll
no.
go 1 for 1.
Okay, that sounds good, man. I can't wait for that. I can't wait for that. TJ, you're the man. Thank you so much.
All right, buddy.
Well, thanks to comedian TJ Miller for joining us here on the Permission Granted podcast, everybody. Now joining me for a very special end of the year, end of 2015 PGP, is my friend Erica Herskowitz, who you hear on CBS Sports Radio and WFAN in New York, handling updates, among other things. Erica, how are you?
I'm doing great. You must have had some time to fill, and you were desperate for a guest.
Well,
this is what I take from this.
To be fair, I want to be transparent here. I thought we were going to do Mraz. However,
so I'm the backup for Mraz.
well, Mraz
that
always
hurts my feelings.
He always does this spot. We call it the crossover, where I come out of the guest and then talk to him and about what stupid, chubby thing he's doing this week or what not, and then what he's eating, how he's sleeping.
All
and then,
very interesting stuff.
Then we get into the part B. But he's in Atlantic City, and frankly, I didn't want to talk to him this week because he's already out of here. And he's done for the week, and we're working. We're grinding here.
We are.
I'm back in tomorrow. We're taping this on Tuesday after I just got done with the Gottlieb show. You're doing updates on my show now. Gresh is in. And then are you back tomorrow?
No, I'm off.
Are you off the rest of the week?
I'm off until Sunday.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm working tomorrow, my normal shift, then off Thursday, Friday, Saturday, then back for Sunday morning football Sunday. So anyway, I wanted to talk to somebody that was here working around the holidays because I actually wanted to ask you if you liked working around the holidays.
Well, I actually do because it's such a skeleton staff.
Agreed.
You know, and I like actually working when nobody's here.
I'm with you.
You got a lot of freedom. Put your feet on the desk.
Yep.
Go on Facebook.
I always hated working around the summers at all my radio stations because I felt like I could be outside doing something.
Right.
But around the holidays, I always loved it. And I wonder if I thought about this today. If I liked it because it brought me back to college when I was the last one in the dorms.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great because nobody's there to make any noise. You have your run of the dining hall. You're kind of in your own little first apartment with nobody else there. I always loved the holidays at the dorms.
Well, it's also the fact that it's a little bit of a badge of honor to make the ultimate sacrifice
Agreed.
and work around the holidays
Yeah.
so that you look like you're the good guy, like the person that's not too big to work a Christmas or a New Year's. And so I feel like it's a little bit of a sacrifice that I'm, making.
Last year I was doing the overnight show during New Year's Eve because I did the last DA show when we did overnights, and that was December 31st into January 1. So I was here when the ball dropped. And let me tell you, there was a few producers that came in after a long night of drinking.
Yeah.
That were stumbling around here. I'm not going to name names.
Yeah, I don't do New Year's Eve only because of the idea that I don't want to drive into Manhattan
It's a disaster.
Yeah, and I just don't want to be on the roads. So I generally, that's the one day of the year that I stopped doing after many years of being on the air, New Year's Eve.
Oh, so you always work New Year's Eve?
I did, because honestly, I think it's overrated. I don't really feel like it's, something I want to go make plans and spend $1 billion going out just the sake of going out. And I do have a family, so, it's very low key. And so we still don't do anything, but, I just don't want to be in the city.
Manhattan's impossible. To do
impossible
anything for
now.
New Year's Eve.
It's impossible from the minute the Christmas trees go up before, right after Halloween.
Yeah.
To the end of basically
it is.
next week. It's a nightmare.
But New Year's Eve, you can't get a reservation at a restaurant.
No, and it's fixed menus and all that stuff. It's
right.
annoying.
And then you go to a bar and it's going to be $50 cover just to get in.
Right.
And
I'm too old for that.
And the worst part is you're never going to get a cab.
No.
You'll never get a cab home. I think last year we were out on New Year's Eve, and it might have taken me until 2:30, 3 o'clock just to try to get a cab.
Well, you're still young and in the scene. I'm way out of it. So for me, I'm just happy sitting on the couch watching.
Well, how long have you been out of the scene?
Oh my God, 15 years.
How long have you been married?
15 years.
Whoa! So as soon as you got married, so as soon as I get married, I'm out of the scene.
No, as soon as you have kids, you're out of the scene.
Oh, but you didn't have kids 15 years ago.
No, I had kids 12 years ago, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Good times.
So, did I ever tell you that one of my best friends in the world told me, in a different life, I think I could have married Erica Herskowitz?
No. No, you never told me that.
I'm not going to give up his name because he's married and he's got a wonderful family, and so I won't put him on Front Street. But one of my best friends in the world grew up around here. He was a Jersey guy and listened to WFAN forever. And he said, I really feel like if my life turned out differently, I could have married Erica Herskowitz. She seems like my type of gal. We're both from Jersey.
Based on what? The fact that I read scores and highlights?
Well, I think also he felt as though since me and all of our friends are in sports media in some way, he felt like I could be the connector or other friends could be the connector.
Oh, we could have met.
Yes.
That is hilarious.
So it wasn't just...
And embarrassing.
For him, you weren't just a voice.
I was attainable.
Yeah, you were a potential friend of the group.
Okay.
And that maybe you could be, in...
Oh, that's funny.
And he still says that. He still
the one
says
that got away.
Yeah,
I've never met him before, but I'm the one that got away. I'm no bargain. You should tell him you didn't miss anything.
Well, I was going to say, your husband has... Well, you cracked the whip a little bit on him.
Hardly.
No?
Hardly. I
Because-
mean, I'm so easygoing.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Because
what you see is what you get.
You've told some stories on the air about how he's tried some stuff and you were like, no, what was it? It was the porcelain.
Oh, no, he bought me a toilet seat for Mother's Day.
And you made him bring it back?
Yeah, he was like Homer Simpson, when Homer buys Marge the bowling ball with his name on it. Like he wanted this heated toilet seat that shot water up your business and was heated, had a remote control. Like, I mean, I have no time for that. And that is not a Mother's Day gift. It went right back to Home Depot.
So you do call the shots on occasion.
I mean, hardly. I'm very easygoing. I'm definitely passive and I roll with things very easily. But when it comes to thoughtfulness, if it's just blatantly omitted from my life and from my husband's brain, I can flip out a little.
I'm wondering what it's like to be with both the network and WFAN because you slide between the two. And I would say you're probably more at WFAN than you are the network, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've been at the Fan coming on 19 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's unreal.
I know. I'm too young to be anywhere 19 years.
That's right.
Yeah, 19 years.
So the reason I bring it up is because I'm far more network than I am WFAN. I've only filled it on the Fan a number of times.
Yeah, but you did many years ago. You were on. And
I did, but I feel like now there's a divide.
You think so?
When I walk around here,
really,
I feel like the Fan people are like, oh, there's the network people.
Oh, I don't know.
You don't think so?
You're not the first person that has said that to me.
And I feel like I can bridge the gap, but I still feel as though there's a little us versus them.
Only because the network sort of moved into the WFAN house, so to speak, and so I think people feel like they're being infringed upon,
right?
But I don't think that it's really that. It's not really the way
tangible.
It is. No, because everybody here has worked elsewhere.
Yeah.
And people here still work elsewhere. So the idea that, there's there is a divide. I mean, there are definitely people that walk around here that nobody knows who they are.
Yeah.
But I think it's more to the point that they don't introduce themselves, and then they're just a bunch of strangers walking around in a newsroom where everybody's known each other forever.
Radio also tends to be a territorial place.
I think so.
Even people on the same station can hate people on the same station.
Absolutely. Even people on the same show can hate people on the same show. Yeah. So, but I think it's no different than any other place that you could work.
Yeah.
I think the idea that I work both places, like I'm super malleable. Like I feel like I slide in both places easily, but I think that says something about, again, being somebody who rolls with the punches. I rarely get offended by what people say. And so the idea that I could just go back and forth and have no problem getting along with people is, that's what makes me so awesome. That's why your friend missed out. I got to tell you.
I agree. That's why he missed out. That's why you're on this podcast right now.
Right. I'm on this podcast because Mraz is in Atlantic City and you needed to fill 10 minutes.
But you are the better option. You're the better option. Let's face it.
All right.
So also, what is it like working on a network where it's 95% guys and 80% guys under the age of 30?
Well, it definitely used to be different for me when I was in my, 19, 20, 21.
Because for those that don't know, everybody behind the scenes is usually
like 20-year-old guys.
Is 30 or younger.
Yeah.
Because it's not a place you're going to get rich.
No, no, you're living with your parents.
You've got to grind as a producer, tape op, newsroom guy, that type of stuff. And so there's a lot of dudes that are just into sports that will do that. But then once they hit a certain age, they're like, I've got to move up or I've got to move out.
Right.
So then hosts can be older, but there's very few female hosts.
Right.
And so you're just in a world that's mostly, so am I, 20-something-year-old dudes. And at least I'm a dude, but how is it to be?
I mean, I think it's funny. I have boys, so for me, I think it's hilarious to watch these guys kind of maneuver around the newsroom and stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing is like now some of the young guys come in and they're like, oh, I've been listening to you since I was a baby. And that makes me want to punch them in the face. And so that really gets me crazy. While it's lovely and sweet, it really makes me feel like old as dirt. And I'm not, because I'm not even 40 yet.
Right.
So thank you. But then there's, the other crew that's sort of, easy to joke around with and have fun. I think it's a fun environment. I mean, it's definitely not, inappropriate in any way. There's no, real guy talk necessarily. And if there is, it's, limited and funny and, just...
You've got the greatest personality, though, and the greatest sense of humor because
Thank you.
I feel like you have fun with all of that type of sense of humor. I do, too. I mean,
do.
Because I'm not much more mature than that.
No, I mean, I can be very immature, and I'm like, I could be super inappropriate in an appropriate way.
Yeah, which is why we get along.
We push we push it to the point where it's like almost, but not. You know what I mean? So I feel like being able to be like that and be myself and have fun, I think I get along with 20-year-old guys better.
So my buddy that you were the one that got away came in to shadow my show once, and he was just hanging out in the newsroom. It was not a night that you were here. He wanted it to be a night that you were here.
That's so crazy.
And he's like, boy, he's in finance, and he's like, boy, when you're outside of your own office, you don't realize around here that all you guys do is talk about sports and chicks all day long.
All day. And food.
All day.
Food.
And food.
Sports, girls, and then we make fun of other broadcasters.
Right. But
we mock each other and other people's shows and
yes. And sports has got to be 75% of the conversation.
Sometimes I feel like we never talk about sports. It's when, especially at WFAN, in the newsroom, we never, with the exception of some fantasy talk that goes on, it's always movies or TV shows or something totally unrelated that you're kind of surprised if you walked into a conversation to hear.
So it's very frat-like.
I would say so. I've never been part of a frat, but
is that... It's not high-minded conversation.
No,
it's what 20-year-old dudes
We're not
talk
talking
about.
Mensa. We're talking sports radio.
Not a lot of politics.
No,
not a lot of cultural
we're not breaking
things.
down the Republican National Convention and ISIS. We're definitely talking Homeland and
right.
the Affair
TV show.
and TV shows. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think it takes a certain person to not be maybe offended by that type of, or just not think that they're above that's below them. And so
No,
I
I
get a kick out of it, and I'm glad that you do, too.
I do.
Because I don't feel like you could survive around here for 19 years
Well,
if you didn't.
you can, but you would be disliked. I
Yeah,
think if you're just
right.
not somebody who kind of takes things in stride, I think you can develop a chip, and then you would be less accepted.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that would put yourself in a harder position if you just let things go and put a smile on your face. I think it's just a lot easier. But I think that's anywhere you work. So
That's probably true. I'm going to let you go because I know you got an update here, but where will you be on midnight for January 1, 2016?
I will be sleeping on my couch.
At midnight sleeping?
Usually the kids and my husband, we turn on a movie, like a sports movie. So last year we watched Major League.
Draft day
the year
coming up.
before, draft day. No, I was thinking Rudy this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then my kids will be fully invested in Ryan Seacrest by 11:58, and I will be sleeping, I'm sure. Yeah. What about you?
My girlfriend and I just have plans to be at my place, maybe have a few people over, watch some of the football games, have some food. I'm going to, get some food delivered and then have some drinks around. And whoever wants to stay until midnight, stay. But I always stay up until midnight. I don't want to be sleeping at midnight because I feel like there's something momentous that you're up as the calendar changes.
There's nothing, no.
But I will be probably, pretty good and toasty by about 1, and then I'll crash.
No, that's it.
Yeah.
Anticlimactic.
Yeah. And then we wake up, it is 2016, and we do it all over again.
Awesome. I can't wait.
Erica Herskowitz from CBS Sports Radio and WFAN New York. Thanks, Erica.
Thank you. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Bye.
All right, welcome into Side B of the Permission Granted podcast, the last Permission Granted podcast before we ring in the new year of 2016. Joining me on the Permission Granted podcast after he filed his grievance that he was no longer worthy of being on here, now has been on here 2 straight weeks. That would be James Ward. James, how are you?
My grievance has been heard. I'm back on the PGP for 2 straight weeks, and I am happy to be here. How are you?
I am tremendous. We're getting this in, full disclosure, we're taping this on Monday before New Year's here. So we're going to do a little up the gut and Awards winners like we did a couple weeks ago and like you did the Awards winners last week and bring it. And, of course, this is a very important Awards winners as we approach the college football playoff on New Year's Eve. James Ward, let's take it away with the Awards winners.
On the season, I'm 26-19 overall, 18-9 in the last 9 weeks. Pick number 1, I'm going to pick the Peach Bowl between Florida State and Houston. Houston is getting 7 points. You look at Houston, they're the best Group of 5 team by far. They only lost 1 game against UConn, and it was a game in which their best player didn't play. So Houston is a very, very football team. Greg Ward Jr., their quarterback, one of the best dual-threat QBs in the country. Well, not a lot of people know who Greg Ward Jr. is. I like his last name, so I pay a little bit more attention to Greg Ward Jr., but he is a very, very good player, and I don't think this is a good matchup for Florida State. You look at what Ohio State did this year. They didn't lose any key players, but they lost Tom Herman, and their offense struggled. Tom Herman's an offensive guru. He really turned Greg Ward Jr. around into being one of the best players in college football. In addition, Cougars' strength is on defense, is stopping the run. Florida State, pretty much their only offense is running Dalvin Cook's offense. I think we can stop Florida State. I'm not going to say Houston wins. We have 7 points to play with. I think Houston keeps this game close, taking Houston to cover the 7 points in the Peach Bowl on New Year's Eve.
You know what I like about this? You went with D.A. Show Karma. Not only did you go with a Ward in honor of your last name, you went with a Herman in honor of Max Herman, who often does updates on the D.A. Show, so that's got to be commended. And Tom Herman was on the show a couple weeks ago, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, really like the Houston team. I think they've done a very good job this year, and they've only lost 1 game, and they lost a game in which their best player was hurt. So you could actually make an argument that the AAC this year was better than the AAC. You look at the final rankings, the AAC has more teams in the final rankings in the top 25 of the AP and the college football playoff rankings than the ACC. You take out Clemson and Florida State, the rest of the ACC was dreck. And the AAC has a couple good teams. So I've been following them closely. I think they're going to play well against Florida State.
All right, pick number 2.
Pick number 2, I'm going to pick one of the college football playoffs. I'm going to the Orange Bowl, Clemson, Oklahoma. Clemson, the best team all season this college football season, actually underdogs in this game. They are 3.5-point underdogs. So you're getting 3.5 points with the best team in the country. I think Oklahoma's a little overrated. People see what they've done, towards the end of the season, but they didn't play well early. They lost to Texas. They almost lost to Tennessee. Clemson's been undefeated the whole year, and if you look at their quarterback, Deshaun Watson, he has not lost a game in his college career in a game in which he's finished. I love this kid. Love watching him play. He tore his ACL last year, still suited up against South Carolina, and won that game. Deshaun Watson is a great college football player. And if Clemson had been up the score, I think he would have gotten more consideration for the Heisman. But they don't run up the score on teams. They play good football, most well-balanced team in the playoffs. They have the number 11 ranked offense. They have the 7th ranked defense. The only team with both units ranked that high. I think Clemson's going to win this game, but take the points.
It's interesting. You think Deshaun Watson, if Clemson had been, less gamesmanshipy, have they been more selfish, then Deshaun Watson may have had a shot at the Heisman. That's an interesting perspective from Wardy there. Gives you the nuggets.
If Clemson played in the Big 12 and they had one of these, we're going to score 50, 60 points every game, Deshaun Watson's numbers would be just as high as Trevon Boykin or Baker Mayfield or any of these Big 12 quarterbacks. But Clemson doesn't do that. Clemson, if you look at the Miami game, he didn't play the second half. And again, the ACC competition, they didn't have a lot of teams that could hang with Clemson either, so he didn't have to play the second half in a lot of these games. But yeah, love watching Watson play. Should be fun in the college football playoffs.
All right, pick number 3.
Pick number 3, I'm taking the Citrus Bowl between Michigan and Florida. Michigan is 4-point favorites in this game. It's the new Jim Bowl, as you got Jim McElwain and Jim Harbaugh both coaching their first bowl games with their respective teams. Michigan has a chance to win 10 games this season. If you look at the expectations heading into the Wolverine season under Jim Harbaugh, no one in the world thought they were going to win 10 games. They have a chance to win 10 games. Remember, they lost to Utah earlier in the year. They lost to Ohio State, and they lost to Michigan State on that fluke play. You look at the Michigan State game. Michigan State won the game and didn't lead for a second of regulation. Remember, they won in that fluky punt play. So Michigan hung with some of the best teams in college football. Florida is not one of the best teams in college football. You look at their offense, it's terrible. Actually terrible. They have one of the worst offenses in the country. Their defense has been good, has been keeping in the game, but I think the only way that Florida scores against the tough Michigan defense, because if you remember, Michigan's defense is kind of one of the top defenses in the country all year, too.
Right, where'd they go? That three straight games with a shutout or something to that effect?
Yeah, shutout, 3 straight games. So I don't think Florida can score on Michigan. And the only way that Florida will score on Michigan is if Michigan turns the ball over and gives them a short field. I don't think it's going to happen. So I'm taking the Wolverines -4 to cover, win the game in the new Jim Bowls, a.k.a. the Citrus Bowl on New Year's Day.
Okay, so out of your 3 picks, you're not picking the nightcap of the college football playoff.
I am not. I like Alabama in that game, but Alabama's getting 10 points. They're laying 10 points against Michigan State. That's too many points. But I don't want to pick Michigan State because I don't like Michigan State. I watched them play a lot of games this year, and I think they kind of squeaked into the playoffs. I don't think they're as good as the other 3 teams. If I had to make a pick in that game, I'd probably take Alabama. But that's not a game where you want to lay that many points. I think Alabama's going to win that game. I think Clemson's going to win the Orange Bowl, and I think the final will be Clemson-Alabama.
Okay, but Alabama will not be an official pick. So, Ward, one more time. I know we don't have the Texas Bowl in yet. As of Monday, your record stands at what?
My record as of Monday with 1 pick pending is 26-19 on the season, so that's 7 games over 500. But I am 18-9 over the last 9 weeks. I started 8-10, and then I've kind of rebounded since then. So 18-9 in the last 9 weeks, 26-19 overall.
Okay, and you have the 3 picks coming up between the New Year's 6, and your pick in the Texas Bowl was who?
My pick in the Texas Bowl was Texas Tech. They are getting 7 points against LSU. I think they're going to cover that. I think they could actually win the game, to be honest.
Okay, all right, so there you have it on the Ward's winners. We'll wrap it through the Up the Gut picks, as Up the Gut took an 0-4 hit in Week 16 in the NFL. Thanks to the fact that the Steelers laid down like absolute dogs. The Raiders didn't do what was expected and covered the spread on Christmas Eve. amongst others. The Patriots as well. I thought they would handle the Jets, but in my opinion, Bill Belichick threw that game. I don't care what anybody tells me. So, yeah, I had a rough go at it. So that dropped me to 28 and 23, Ward. I'm just 5 games over, so you really passed me here. And unless
so I have a two-game lead. 2-game lead over the big guy.
2-game lead. So it's a big week for me and a big week for you to see if we can kind of even things out. And then I'll have the NFL playoffs to play with, where you'll be done and toast and be sitting at whatever record you have, correct?
Yeah, I mean, not unless you want me to pick the spring games, but
yeah.
I'm probably done for the year after this week.
Right, okay, so we'll avoid that. My picks, as we bring you up the gut here, give me the Broncos laying 7.5 at home in Week 17. And mind you, I'm picking this game before ever knowing the outcome of the Bronco-Bengal game. And frankly, I don't care, because if the Broncos win, they're really live, I believe, for a win and a New England loss. They would both get to 12-4, and the Broncos would have beat New England head up. So Denver would be in play for the 1 seed, as far as I can tell to the naked eye. Would you agree with that, Ward?
Yeah, I don't love the Broncos. I think that number might be a little high, but I think they will be in line to knock off New England for that home field.
Right. So they're going to be playing with a little juice there. It's 7.5. It's home. Denver's live, trying to get hot. They're playing for a bye or whatever they're playing for in Week 17. And the Chargers are just toast. They're dead. I know they played well on Christmas Eve. That was in front of a national audience. Here they are fining safety Eric Weddle $10,000 for trying to watch his daughter dance at halftime. San Diego's packed up the bags here before this game. I think Denver rolls in this one. Give me the Broncos laying 7.5 in Week 17. Pick number 2. I got to be honest with you. I didn't love this pick when I first went over all the spreads. But what you're looking for in Week 17 is you're looking for teams that are playing for something. Because when you're picking teams that are playing for nothing at all, or 2 teams that are playing for nothing, you have no idea who's packing it in, who's not going to play to get hurt and stuff like that. Give me Carolina laying the 10.5 at home versus Tampa Bay, and I'll tell you what. Tampa Bay is going to play this game hard. Jameis Winston's going to have this team ready, and Lovie Smith's going to have this team ready. But if you're the Carolina Panthers, you're coming off that emotional game versus the New York Giants, and then you follow it up with losing your first game of the year to the Atlanta Falcons. Now suddenly you find yourself in a position where if you lose this game to Tampa and trip up again, and Arizona beats Seattle, well, then Carolina, after all that and going 14-0, wouldn't even be the number 1 seed in the NFC. So to need to win this game, finish at 15-1, just that's how good Arizona's been, to ensure they're the 1 seed. And if you're Carolina, after all the goodwill you've built up, you really don't want to play another slow game versus a team that you're clearly better than, and have yourselves doubting yourselves heading into the playoffs. So I look for Carolina at home to get things right and win this game by 2 touchdowns and cover the 10.5 points for Tampa Bay.
I have to admit, I totally hate that pick. So I would go the complete opposite direction of that pick, and I would run in the complete opposite direction of that pick.
Well, that's why you pick college games, Ward. You know,
yeah, double digits division game. I understand they might have to win it to get the number 1 seed. But if you look at the way the Panthers have played the last few weeks,
listen, I'm telling the audience this: I am taking this game for those reasons. I think Carolina needs it. But when I first looked at the pick, the game scared me to death. But the more I thought about it, the more it scared me less to death than any game that, quite frankly, means nothing on the board. Does that make sense? That's my selling point there.
We'll agree to disagree. I would totally take the Bucks at that line.
My last pick is a game that could mean absolutely nothing, but may mean something. And the Colts are laying 6 points versus the Tennessee Titans, and I will take those 6 points. I don't care who's going to play quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts. You know what? It was sloppy, but they impressed me versus Miami. And the Titans stink, and the Titans really aren't going to play for much, especially without Mariota there trying to end his rookie season on a high note because he's finished. Give me the Indianapolis Colts. I only have to win this game by a touchdown and an extra point, 6 points, and I'm hoping that by the time you guys are listening, this game still means something to Indianapolis because there'll be even more reason to think this is a big-time pick. And give me the Colts in what I'm going to call my best bet of the week, laying 6 against the Titans.
Well, the Titans are trash. But the Colts might be starting Stephen Morris on Sunday.
I understand.
Because Whitehurst went on IR this week, right? He's out for the rest of the year for 1 week.
Exactly.
Andrew Luck probably not ready, and Matt Hasselbeck probably not ready. So you got Stephen Morris, the former University of Miami quarterback.
I understand.
I don't know about that one either.
Well, you Ward again. This is why you pick college games. I pick the pros. Leave it to me. That's a 3-0 week sitting for you to get me back up to 8 games off. All right?
Since we're competing against each other, I'm happy with all 3 of you.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for the Permission Granted podcast. Ward, I can't guarantee you'll be on 3 straight weeks, but your grievance was heard, so I'm glad we could bring our picks to the table here and make sure we have them on the record for the listeners that look forward to them every week.
Yeah, grievance was heard. I'm happy to be back on the PGP, but remember, it has to carry over into the new year.
All right. Take care, everybody. Have a happy and healthy new year.